You're listening to The Weekend Take. And now your host, Sean Schaefer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Weekend Take. I'm your host, Sean Schaefer, and with me this week is actress Ellen Adair, best known from such shows as The Sinner, Homeland, and Billions. Ellen, how are you doing this week?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to have you on the show. Ellen, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Those are some of the highlights. I am predominantly an actor, though I write as well. And I have done a lot of stage stuff, but these days I do mostly TV and film. I'm leaving actually tomorrow to shoot a film that I don't know if I can talk about details or the name of it or the exciting other people in it, so I won't talk about it, but I'm very excited to undertake that journey.
What inspired you to begin an acting career?
My grandmother was an actor and my aunt is also an actor, but I grew up on sort of the opposite coast from them. But it was more that I knew that they did that and I thought that was so cool and that was what I wanted to do. But I grew up without a television. So for me, like being an actor meant being on the stage, and that's kind of what I grew up doing. I did my first Shakespeare play when I was 12 and I fell in love with it. And so I have had a lifetime of doing Shakespeare at this point, and I still really enjoy it. Stage acting is kind of like Italian, and on-camera acting is like French. So they're related languages, and if you know one, it's going to help you learn the other one, and there are a lot of cognates. But you can't just necessarily expect that if you know Italian, you can walk into a room with a bunch of French people and that they will understand you. It's fun to work in both of the genres, but there's always, for me, a sort of like period of adjustment where I'm getting my vocabulary back. The things that I have come to really love about on-camera work is, number one, the scale, just that it's completely like real life and that all I have to do is have a thought to know that it's going to read. So it's not my responsibility to make sure in any way that the story is conveyed. It's just my responsibility to be in the place and experience what's going on. I think the real reason for me for being an actor is that I am acquisitive of experience and I'm acquisitive of the human condition, and I want to know what it's like to experience more things than any person can experience in a normal life. The closer that I am to really being able to experience those things, the more enjoyable that is for me. Additionally, the other thing that I really love about on-camera work is actually that it's not my job to decide what the final cut is. It's just my job to be in the moment and give the director and the editor different options for what it might be. So as long as it feels real in this moment, I don't have to decide, oh my God, is this the right thing to do? I just have to say, this is the way that it felt this time. And actually it's even better if it felt different from the way that it felt last time. It's so fun to start a take and be like, this could be really different from last time. You know, I don't know what's going to happen. The more that I can keep like, this could be totally different than it's been before, alive in me, I think the more fun that I have.
It's interesting to hear of your love of Shakespeare. What would be your favorite show of Shakespeare's to watch as an audience member, or do you have a preferred show that you would like to be a part of?
That's such a great question. I have to subdivide it.
Okay.
So my favorite history is Henry V. I really love Henry V. And my favorite tragedy is probably the Scottish play, and I just never say the word ever because I've done it twice, and bad things do happen. And my favorite comedy is As You Like It. So Rosalind is maybe my favorite character in Western literature, and I have gotten to be Rosalind, but I love her so much that I would love to do it again. I also really love Helena in All's Well That Ends Well. That's another character that luckily I got to play. I always wanted to play Cordelia in King Lear because I really love that play. And I think, unfortunately, I've probably straight graduated to the like Regan part of my life without ever getting to play Cordelia. And that's a small tragedy for me. If somebody would let me play Cordelia before I'm like way too old to play Cordelia, that would be great.
Outside of the acting world, you are an adamant fan of baseball.
It's so true.
Aside from acting, you're also a writer, and you have brought your writing talents to the world of baseball and sports. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So earlier this year, I wrote a couple of what I would call like absurdist puff pieces on this site, Fenway Nation, which was just because the editor in chief of that site is a Homeland fan and saw me on Homeland and wanted to do a sort of profile of me of like, isn't it crazy that this person that we know from television is a completely insane person when it comes to her love of baseball? So he offered like, hey, would you want to write some stuff in the off season? I wrote a piece on my complex flowchart of baseball allegiances because I love many teams, and then a few articles on my rules for cheering. But the really exciting thing for me, which that was wonderful and I had fun doing it, to sort of like come out of that, is that now I'm actually going to be writing about the Phillies. This is my main team for the turfsports.com. So I'm very excited about that. My first piece dropped on the Turf about like less than an hour before Bryce Harper signed. And the piece was entitled Why Bryce Harper on the Phillies is Good for Most of Us. And I was basically just making the case that of all the teams who were in at that point, that the acquisition of Bryce Harper in terms of his wins above replacement would make the biggest difference to the projected standings. I was at the gym and I saw that it went live. And I decided to stop and like tweet out that I had written this story because I was at that point in my life so sure that he was going to go to one of the teams on the West Coast. And I was like, my story is going to be irrelevant like by 5 p.m. today. But it was while I was doing that the news broke. A number of the other writers on the like Slack channel were like, Ellen, are you Bryce Harper? And I was like, I wish I had $330 million, but no. The writing project for me that is actually more serious, though I'm very excited to be writing about the Phillies for the Turf, is that I've been working on a television series about sports writers, actually, with my friend Chris Carfizzi from Billions. In some ways, this is just fun because I'm like, oh, more research for my television series.
It seems that your love of the game and dedication to the sport has made some nice opportunities. I mean, I've seen on social media that you got to sit at the Phillies press conference table and get a jersey and
yeah. The managing director of the Phillies like saw a tweet that I made, and I won't make this too long of a story. And, he was like, come to Citizens Bank Park and I'll get you some tickets. And like, I wasn't expecting any of the rest of that stuff. It was just insane to me. How did I get a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory golden ticket? And it wasn't until the following week when my husband and I were going to a game at Citi Field where the Phillies were playing. I was just at the game and then got a bunch of texts from friends who were like, hey, you're on TV. And I realized that all of the things that I had just in my excitement, just like blathered about my, lifetime love of the Phillies, they like slid into the broadcast, that they were like, this is Ellen Adair. And, you've seen her on Homeland and Billions, and she has loved the Phillies for her whole life. My golden ticket experience was contextualized a little bit, but I was no less grateful for it.
What would you say is probably the best piece of advice that someone's offered you as an actor?
The best piece of advice that I ever got was, I was a fairly young actor at that point, and I was studying at Shakespeare and Company, and this teacher named Dennis Krosnick told me, you need to know that the best student doesn't necessarily make the best actor. I've been a like Hermione Granger type my whole life and have always thought, oh, if I just like study harder and if I just try harder, like I'm gonna be better. And the main thing that you really need as an actor is just to be persistent and not to give up. And so being a good student will help you well there. But I think when it comes to actually acting, if you're trying to do the right thing or like be the best student or something rather than just letting it go and being a person, it's not going to work out for you. To a certain extent, I do feel like that piece of advice transformed me from being like what was probably a totally unwatchable actor before that to like one that is, mostly watchable, or at least some people seem to think so. I always think of it like jumping off of a ledge at the start of a scene that I've just got to jump and know that I'm gonna fly. And I can't know how it happens. I just know that it will happen.
I love the way you put it. Say someone's kind of just on the fringe of where they are and where they think they should be as an actor. What would you say to that person if they're listening to the show now? Like, what would be the advice you'd give them?
Well, I think, and I sort of hinted at this earlier, but I think the advice that I would give is just, if it's really the thing that you have to do in the world is be an actor, if there is no other choice for you, then just persevere and keep studying and keep going to class and keep watching things and watching people, and it will happen for you. If you keep on refining your eye and your experience of what it means to be a person and your experience of what it means to be an actor, and if you keep being smart about what the business is and you really apply yourself to educating yourself about what market do I want to move to, or I'm in New York and which agents should I target, or, what is my type, knowing how to market yourself. That's all very important stuff. Take some time every single day and do something for your craft. Even if that's like, I'm going to watch this television show that I know has really good acting in it and watch what the actors do. Like, that counts as a thing to do for your craft. That's not to give somebody a homework assignment. It's just to say that I really think that perseverance and not giving up are the most important things that you need to be an actor, because you'll get better if you just keep at it.
Do you watch the parts that you play on television or in theaters?
Oh, yeah. I watch myself. I mean, I feel like I learn so much from that, because I'm like, I know what that felt like to be in it, and I want to know what it looked like what was the story that I was telling. And I feel like it's hard at the beginning, because inevitably there's this human experience of hating what your face does. I mean, I assume that this doesn't happen to everybody. Scarlett Johansson probably doesn't hate what her face does, or maybe she does, I don't know. But I have a laundry list of things that I hate about my face and about expressions that I make. But at this point, I've just been at it for so long that I am able to just sort of like meditation, when you see a thought and you're like, that's a thought, I'm just gonna let that thought go. That's exactly how it is. I'm like, yep, I hate, my teeth and my forehead, and I'm just gonna let that go and focus on what I'm actually doing.
That's great. And for others of us like myself, you get to the point where it's just like, well, I dislike my face enough where I'm going to become a cinematographer and don't have to be in front of a camera ever.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Everybody's face has a place in front of a camera. That's my belief.
One last little fun thing was 2 weeks ago when I was talking with Solomon and we were discussing the Academy Awards and that. And I said, listen, everybody at some point when they get into this business, they have what would be their acceptance speech for some day. Prove that I'm not crazy. Tell me that you at some point have imagined what an acceptance speech for a major award would be.
Yes and no is my answer. Yes, insofar as I have been nominated for awards before, and so have prepared an acceptance speech in case I won that award. Now, obviously, this was not the Academy Awards, but that means that I have given some thought to what my acceptance speech would be in those cases. And the main thing that I've decided is that I think it's always lame to say I didn't have a speech prepared, because clearly they have prepared to say I didn't have a speech prepared. You're nominated for the thing. The thought has crossed your mind that you could win it. When I have been nominated for things, I've been like, it's not going to be me. It's going to be this other renowned actress. That's okay. I'm still going to prepare a speech, because I don't want to look like a total doof if I do win and I have to go up there and then can't remember people's names. That said, I actually have not thought about what my Academy Awards acceptance speech would be, but I'm sure it could never be as good as Olivia Colman's. So
looking ahead in 2019, just to wrap up real quick, is there something on the horizon for you that we should be looking out for?
Well, hopefully we're looking out for some more news from my series that I'm writing, which is called Balls and Strikes. And my writing partner and I are hoping to produce a proof of concept for that. But also earlier this year, I shot an episode of The Good Fight. So that should be coming out at some point. I actually don't know. I should probably look up the air date for that. But yeah, I'll be on the next season of The Good Fight too.
Definitely want to thank you, Ellen, for coming on the show. Where can someone see some of your work or connect with you, either social media or otherwise? Like where can they find out more about you?
Oh, yeah, totally. I've got all the things. I have a website. It's my name, Ellen Adair, ADAIR.com, sort of basic. You can also find me on Twitter at Ellen_Adair, ADAIR. And I'm also on Instagram at Ellen Adair G. That's just the letter. That's for my married name. I also have a Facebook page. I think it's like facebook.com/Ellen Adair G. I am seriously fading Facebook. I'm not on Facebook very often. If you actually want to get in touch with me in some way, like Twitter is probably the best way.
I want to thank you, Ellen, for staying up with me after both of us with long days to be a part of the show. But thank you again, and it's been great having you on. So that about does it for us here this week on The Weekend Take. Weekend Take is also on social media. We are on Twitter at Weekend Take. We're also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Weekend Take. And also please be sure to check out our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/The Weekend Take. Patrons of The Weekend Take get exclusive access to extended cuts of our episodes. So if you want to hear more of the conversation that Ellen and I had, you can become a patron of The Weekend Take and check that out there. But I want to thank you again for coming on the show and burning the midnight oil with us. I know it's been a long day and you have early plans in the morning, so I won't keep you any longer than I already have. And again, apologize for the late night.
No, it's really my pleasure. Thanks, Sean.
That does it for us here this week on The Weekend Take. Until next week, I want everyone to enjoy the week ahead, and we'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye.
You've been listening to The Weekend Take. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Google Play and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Visit our Patreon page to become a patron of The Weekend Take, and for as little as $1, you'll receive exclusive content and perks.